Thank you for your interest in the Retained Recruiter show powered by iIntro. Before the show starts, I have a small favour to ask of you. Our goal is to provide you with the most insightful, helpful and practical recruitment knowledge and know-how from the best in the recruitment industry. If you like this channel and enjoy watching our content, hit the subscribe button to get notified as soon as we upload a new episode. Thank you again, and as ever, we're rooting for your success. Now, time for the show. Hello and welcome to the Retained Recruiter show. My name is James.
And my name is Joe. Wow. Well, I hope everybody's had a good bank holiday weekend. If you've had a bank holiday weekend, of course. If not, just hope you've had a nice weekend and a good Monday.
It's summer. The sun is shining. Oh, is it summer? No, it's summer officially in 2 days' time, isn't it? Yeah.
Is
meteorological
it?
Summer. Yeah. 1st of June is the meteorological summer months. June, July, and August.
Well, I think everyone's feeling pretty summery at the moment, and everything's better when the sun shines, isn't it? And also, James, I think this is the first time in a long time we've done a session where it's just been you and I. We've been let loose again on our own. Oh, goodness.
Have we been let loose or nobody wants to come and join us? But that's not true because we've got some really exciting guests coming up in the next couple of months, actually. We've got some really exciting ones. So keep an eye out for that one. What are we talking about today, though, Joe?
So today we're talking about how to attract and engage better candidates, which I think the case in point there, better candidates, not just any candidates. So we've got a few things that we want to share with you today. I think we're going to start with the end in mind, aren't we really, James? So we're going to start end first. And we're going to talk to you about how to engage candidates first, because a lot of that we want to talk to you about is value propositioning and service methodology, which in itself you feed back into your attraction campaign, and that's going to help you to attract better candidates. So do you want to kick us off, James, with how do we engage better candidates better?
Well, how do we engage better candidates better? That's a mouthful, isn't it? I think one of the things we have to look at is why don't candidates want to be engaged? I think, we have to look at the industry in terms of, why there's disillusionment with recruiters from a candidate perspective. And I think that all stems from the fact that there's so many things wrong in the candidate acquisition process. Where it's just a blanket out to as many people as you can. It's the spray and pray. It's sort of the opposite of when we're talking about client marketing, candidate marketing in the sense of trying to find candidates. I'm not talking about marketing candidates out to employers. There's such a disengagement with candidates because they are very much commodities in the marketplace. And I think what you have to do as an organization is set out a strategy as to about how you're going to engage candidates and what your value proposition is, what's your service proposition to look at candidates. And they have to understand, and remember, everyone sits in the seat where they say, what's in this for me? Why should I talk to that recruiter? So you've got to have a benefits-led statement that's going to make candidates understand that if I come and talk to you, what will you do for me? How will you communicate with me? And will you get me that job? Because that's the only reason they come to you. So I think you've got to look at your own strategy to say, what am I going to do that's going to do that? How can I position that? And on your own company website, I think you need to look at, because obviously we get company websites to talk to clients, potential employers. There should be that section, and most people do have it nowadays, for candidates or whatever it may say. And you need to state in black and white or white on black, whatever the color scheme is on your website, say what it is that you'll do for your candidates and give them some, a bit like a service level agreement, because that's then going to show them that you're going to treat them with respect and humanity in the process, because quite often they're not. And if you don't believe me, just ask some candidates. Go to a party and say, and when someone says, "What do you do?" Say, "I'm a recruiter," and watch them turn their backs and run away. So,
Exactly. We've all been candidates at some point in the past as well. And have we used a recruiter? What was our experience of using a recruiter? And also, if we didn't use a recruiter, why? I was having this conversation with someone this morning, actually, because we were talking about this very topic. And I said to them, I think more and more people are now. Candidates are now searching out their own jobs, and we have to think, okay, is this because of social media and advances in technology that people are able to bridge the divide between them and companies now, and they can reach out directly to companies? But you've also got to think, okay, what is it about us that is making candidates feel as if they could do it better than we could? So maybe the experience that they're having isn't that great. And we work with a lot of companies who obviously iIntro want to differentiate their service when it comes to the clients. So what is our client value proposition? And we work at lengths, and businesses work very hard to create a value proposition and a service methodology and a client journey, because they want to sell that to the clients. But at what point do we stop and think about the candidate? We think about the candidate's value proposition or the candidate's journey or experience and what that looks like. And actually, you're right, James. I don't think candidates, there used to be a great website called Recruitment Reviews, which was essentially reviews that were written by candidates and the like. And it wasn't great reading, to be honest. It was exactly what you've just said then. So a lack of transparency, a lack of clarity in process, a lack of knowledge or advice given, little or no feedback, etc. So lots and lots of problems that we help our clients at iIntro deal with, because obviously the bespoke nature in which you work, when it's retained, you have the time to work with less clients on a basis. So level of consultancy you can provide to your candidates is also better. So that's something that we need to think about. But you're right. I think what are the benefits of working with a recruiter for a candidate? What can you give them that they wouldn't get if they were doing it directly or just doing it through a friends and family referral or something like that?
Yeah.
And they're starting to think about the journey that you put the candidates through, turning each one of those into an element of the service, and then proposing or selling each of those elements to your candidates. Once you've got the idea of what your service methodology is, James, you can start to use that in your messaging to candidates and in your attraction campaigns, can't you?
100%. I think that what any candidate who's approaching, and you've sparked some other thoughts in my head that I'll come back to later about referrals and things like that. But anyway, what you said there in terms of that, in terms of engaging people with, is helping them understand what it is that you're going to do for them, and being explicit about it, because they come to you for that role. So what statements of fact can you give? Now, one of the things we talk a lot about at iIntro is our success with employers, and one of the stats we use for recruiters to provide to employers is that working with iIntro, candidates that we place, 96% of them are still in the job 1 year later. Now you might say, so what? But I assure you, if you ask your prospects and clients what their new employee retention, it's really important, new employee retention rate is, what we find is when we ask that question, and we literally ask it hundreds of times every week, we find that typically it's 70 to 75%, so 7 to 7.5 out of 10 are still in the job 1 year later. So our 96% is actually an amazing statistic, and it's down to the hard work of all the recruiters that work with iIntro, as well as all the training and support that you provide them with, Joe, of course.
And it's not much less in year 2 either, is it?
No, it's 93%. Now, what does that mean? Well, we know the message it means for employers, but let's bring this back around. We were talking about candidates today. So if I engage with a recruiter who's got that 96% success rate, what does that mean for me? Well, it means that if you get me a job, it's going to be the right job. Yeah, because there's a 96% chance that's going to turn out to be a long-term, career move for me, the individual. And it's important we stress that out there, that, you say, how you do it. Now, you can't just give the statistic without something that sort of either backs it up or gives a benefit from it. So the backup material is, the way that we deliver this is we don't just, throw candidates at the wall and hope some of them will stick. What we do is we assess and evaluate you, and we make sure when we put you in front of our clients, they're the right clients, the type of employer that you will enjoy working for, the type of employer where you'll be able to deploy all of your skills, knowledge, and experience in the way that you enjoy putting it. Therefore, there's a higher degree and a higher chance of success in the role. And when you share that with a candidate, say, okay, so you're not just going to throw me out, you're actually going to measure, assess, evaluate me, and put me in front of employers who are going to be the right fit for me. And that shows the candidate that you're going to be that you're really going to care for them, rather than they're just not that commodity. Now we talk about this, Joe, in the sense of because we work a lot in the retained market space and exclusive contingent, and we're lucky, therefore, and I say lucky, we make our own luck in this sense, but we're lucky that we have the time to do that. And I know the contingent recruiters who are maybe struggling say, God, I get 100 candidates applying for a role, and how do I deal with them all? Well, you've got to find a way to sort of slow down to speed up, and actually if you don't put in place some service policy, you're not going to have the rep that you want, and it's about building a reputation. So I think that's where it starts for me, having some statements that the candidates can see. Okay, you care about me. I'm not just a number in your database, and I think that's really important.
It is. I mean, this is a big life decision for people, even if you're working in the contract market or whatever, it's a big life decision. Nobody wants to make the wrong decision about a job. The impacts of that can be quite serious. I think some of us listening today might have at one point, got into a job and the reality hasn't met the perception, because interviews and jobs are very, yes, interviews, not now, clearly, not with our intro, we're super happy, in days gone by. But yeah, the perception versus reality of jobs is a real commonality. Why is that? It's normally because you've not been put forward for the right opportunity in the first place. The job hasn't been matched to you properly. And why is that? It's because typically recruiters deal in bits of paper. So all they have to be able to sell the opportunity to a candidate is a 2-page job description. It's all words and it's no pictures. And actually, that's not a great way to, it's not a sales tool, it's an admin tool, it's an internal document, it's not an external document. So every time you, and I know a lot of recruiters now that don't even sell the opportunity over the phone because they haven't got the information from the client. They sort of qualify the candidate and then say, right, let me send the job description over to you. I mean, that's a little bit like saying, here's a house for sale that you might be interested in. Here's 3 pages of room dimensions. It's like, well, look, I kind of need to know it, but it's not going to set the world on fire, is it really? It's not going to wow me into wanting. You need the pictures, you need the dream, you need the, this is what you can become, the whiffum, like you said, this is the what's in it for me. And so we need to move away, if we're going to attract really good people and engage them. Not only do we need to have the right messaging, they need to feel safe in our company and safe in our process. They need to know that we're different and that we're going to get them the right job for them, not just any job for them. But also we need to be able to present opportunities better to them, don't they? Because top candidates are not going to be attracted by boring job descriptions, unfortunately.
No. You know what, when you said something there, it's going to lead me on to candidate packs. But one of the analogies that you've got there, and you see how some of the improvements have happened in the marketplace of estate agency or real estate. In terms of, I found an old file from a house I bought in 1987, and it was a one-pager. Double-sided, admittedly, with a Polaroid photo stuck on the front. And that's like the job description of the market. And you look at a estate agency now, and obviously with technology that they've brought on, they've digitized all their processes. And, if you're going to buy a house now, even the most modest of houses, you're inundated with information to help you make the right decision. So it's not the room dimensions, Joe, anymore, is it? It's actually, you get lots of where you can visually sort of see yourself in it.
Oh, yeah,
It's amazing. So if you think an industry which is in some respects used to be as poorly regarded as recruiters can do something like that, well, surely we should be able to as well. So when you come back to candidates, one of the things that we advocate here at iIntro is putting all the information at a candidate's fingertips before they, as part of that attract and engage. It's a double-edged sword, this one. And when we put together candidate briefing packs, so these are information packs for the candidate. And when we come across harassed contingent recruiters, they say, I don't have time for that. And I get it, you don't. If you're working on 10 to 20 vacancies in a month, trying to juggle, keep those plates spinning and hope not too many of them smash. No, of course you don't. But because we work in a retained environment, one of the great benefits that we showcase to the employers, first of all, is actually how we go out there, attract and engage the best candidates in the market. And the way that we do that is we put together an information pack, which is a lot of the company information. And people say, well, it's on the website, just send them to the website. No, you have to make it easy for the candidate, because it's our job to attract them, to seduce them to be interested in this particular role. So what we do is we build this information pack, and we use that as the vehicle, because we effectively feel like that we're part of the employer that we're working with. We're part of their brand going out into marketplace, so we represent them. So we build this information pack, all the things about the company, the great things, messages from the CEO or whoever in the organization, information which might be readily available on the website, but we make it easy for the candidate. And then we're able to include things like the job description. So you've made it a little bit more, there's a bit more meat on the bone, so to speak, so the candidate can start to say, wow, this looks really good, here's a great job description. And then what you can do, part of the engagement process that we talk about, that 96% we just mentioned, we can put in the details about our recruitment process, what it's like to be considered as a candidate for this amazing opportunity you're representing. And that's not just about, you just throw your hat in the ring and there's your CV or resume and, hey, okay, we'll consider you. No, we only measure the best candidates, and we want to consider you. But if we are going to put you through to our client, then you need to sort of help us build a profile. So we're very much about building that. So we're able to document very clearly, concisely, but also very explicitly to the candidate, the whiffum. I forgot that one. I just when I said what's in it for me, the whiffum. I love that. It's better. Yeah, we can showcase it to the candidates. And so I think in this day and age, and every time we present this to an employer, first of all, because we show the employer, because they sign it off, of course, we ask the employer two important questions. We first of all say, what do you think? And without fail, they'll say, wow, it looks amazing. Yeah, because we put a lot of effort into making it look good, because it's representing their brand, the company, it's representing us, the recruiter that is. So I imagine I'm you in this scenario, you listening to this broadcast, of course. And then we say, okay, I'm glad that's the feedback we typically get. And then we say to them, and how would you feel if you're a candidate receiving this type of information? Would it make you feel more or less excited about applying or putting yourself forward for this role? And they say, oh, I think I'd be really impressed if I received this as a candidate, because most of the time all I see is a little advert on LinkedIn or a 1 to 2 page job description, which is pretty bland, as you sort of mentioned right at the outset today, Joe. So I think that's all part of this process of actually going out there to show both the employer and then the potential candidates that actually we do care a lot about them. It is an important step in their career for them to make. So let's make it easy for them.
Yes, absolutely. Paul's saying, hi, Paul. Nice to see you. So Paul's saying over on the chat, the feel safe element, excuse me, that we put in place with candidates. iIntro has really helped him to concentrate on understanding and getting to really know his candidates. And it's a game changer when they feel that you are helping them. Absolutely. And that's exactly what this is, and the same with our clients. Our job is to enable them to improve upon what they've got now, be that the clients in terms of their business goals and their growth, or candidates in terms of career aspirations and growth. And if that's what you think you do, of course, then everything else that you do kind of comes out of that. And so candidates do need to feel safe. They need to feel psychologically safe with us and our process. And the idea of what you said, James, in there, if a candidate pack or a candidate brochure, whatever you want to put together, also lays out what your process is, what is the experience that they're going to go through. Again, that helps people to feel safe because, it allows them to know what's about to happen. And that's going to really help you with candidate engagement and also candidate advocacy and loyalty and commitment, because they know what's coming. It doesn't feel like this risky, opaque process that you're putting them through, where you kind of qualify them, send them a job description and say, right, I will come back to you. And then the candidate has no idea of whether that's going to happen or not. So I don't think it's going to take a lot to look very, very good and very, very different in the marketplace. What that might help you to do, or what it will help you to do, because we prove it all the time here, but what it will help you to do is to, as you get that consistent messaging out into your marketplace, it's going to help you to convert some of those candidates that would be open-minded to a career move, but wouldn't have considered using a recruiter because bad experiences, bad karma, bad reviews, etc. So this is where we start to get into attraction a little bit more here. In a famine market, you've always got two markets, feast and famine. It's never just okay, is it? A nice amount of jobs and a nice amount of candidates. This never happens. So if you're in a famine, wouldn't it be? Well, yes, it'd be great. We'd all be all out of a job probably. So in a famine market, you're going to have to not only dig deeper, and we'll talk about that in a second, but you're going to have to, your messaging needs to be on point, consistent, repeated, high value, differentiating messages out there into that non-active, kind of semi-active, semi-passive marketplace. Is going to hopefully start to convert and convince some of those people to use you where they wouldn't have used a recruiter before. And the beauty of that, hey presto, is you've suddenly got exclusive candidates to take out there. And these aren't candidates that clients are finding themselves. Which brings me to the other point, which is in a feast market, which some of us are experiencing now. I know IT is kind of seeing a bit of this happening. In a feast market, I've got recruiters sat there sort of twiddling their thumbs, sort of going, well, what's our value now? Clients are saying they can find candidates. They're putting an ad on for an engineer or developer, and they're getting 400 applications. Where is my value as a recruiter at that point? And I suppose that they have got a point there, but even in a famine market, this is going to help you. In a feast market, I think sometimes we think just because there's loads of candidates about, it doesn't necessarily translate to those being good candidates, does it? And clients end up in a kind of feeding frenzy over what's available on the market. And at that point, I think our messaging to our clients has to change. It's not just about finding you candidates. It's about finding the right ones.
It is, and I think that what you just said to mind. We did a little one of these retained recruiter shows with one of our clients called Ian Partington, if he's listening, and Sean McCauley from the HST Group. And I'm gonna misquote them now, not deliberately. I'll probably just get it wrong. They said a lovely thing to me the other day. I was with them last Friday because they're having some amazing success, and they were talking to their clients about this feast and famine in a roundabout way. And they're saying, well, the problem is, you advertise and you get 400 applicants. That's you're going to be able to choose from the best on the available market, not necessarily the best in the market, and that's where you add value to the employer. I mean, I know we're talking about candidates here as well, because what you do is you assess and evaluate candidates, and your role as a recruiter isn't just to dip into a database, which is what the client is now doing. Mm-hmm. They're sticking an advert on Indeed and getting 400 replies or whatever they're getting. They've still got to search and sift through that. I mean, we know the headache that is. So that's where the recruiter can still add value, because it's a holding exercise they can do. But actually, what we do need to get to clients, you need the best person, who's in the market, not just on the available market. That's all they're seeing when they dip into these databases. So there's lots of things you can do there. But let's come back to candidate attraction and engagement, because what we're doing there is we're saying to candidates, if you just throw your hat in the ring, you're 1 in 400. If you're working through a recruiter, particularly if they're retained, and it's one of the values that we express here at iIntro, when you're working with an employer on a retained basis in your candidate pack, because that's not necessarily public property, but you're careful about who you're sending out to. You can say to the candidate, I've been retained by my client to deliver this type of service, and this type of service is not just to help the client get the right candidate, it's to make sure the candidate gets the right career move. So again, you're bringing it back to that part. So you're building up this value proposition that says we care for you, and I think it's really important that comes across, in a very sure way, so they actually know that you are, you're serious about it rather than just sort of playing with it. And I think that's quite important too, because I think the overall reputation of recruiters, Joan, I just want to go back to one of those points, is as recruiters, we do sometimes see candidates as, a commodity. We've all been there at some point, and we all know that, I need to get some extra leads this week. What do? Well, you tap your candidates up, don't you? And say, where are you interviewing at the moment? Then they've stopped telling you now, because they know that's what all recruiters do. And I had this experience. The last time I was applying for a job was, thankfully, was 2006, might have been 5. Anyway, 2005, 6, doesn't really matter. And I spoke to a very good recruiter, so to speak, or great reputation. I'd known her from beforehand, and she ghosted me. That wasn't a phrase we used back in 2005, 6, but she ghosted me, having I'm going to help you get a job, James, and all this type of stuff. And then what do all recruiters do? Well, she disappeared. That's fine. I went and got a job anyway, and found my own job, or somebody else helped me into it. And then all of a sudden you pop up in the role, and And all of a sudden she rings me up and say, hello, James, how are you? Hopefully your new role's going well. Listen, when you're building your team, how can I help you? And I thought, well, I'm polite, so I didn't actually say what I really wanted to say, believe it or not. And of course I thought, how disingenuous of recruiters who ghost you and then just sort of, as soon as they see you appear, which is one of the things we do. Now, of course, when you're working with candidates, then even if you don't place them, but you've actually treated them with respect, they will do it. And our colleague, and he's coming up on one of these shows fairly soon, Paul Hickey, MD of Grass Greener Group and co-founder of iIntro. I just remember this great story, and it's a true story. He was working with a short list of candidates, had 3 or 4 candidates, and one of the candidates got the job, which obviously inevitably means 2 or 3 candidates don't get the job. Anyway, I'm not saying in terms of the candidates all disappeared, and one of the candidates who didn't get the job actually got placed by a very well respected global search firm into a role in the Netherlands. And what that candidate did when he got placed, you'd think his allegiance was back to one of these big companies who'd placed him, but it wasn't. He actually phoned Paul to say, Paul, I really enjoyed the process, the way you looked after me as a candidate. I know I didn't get the job, but that wasn't your fault. It just wasn't my turn with that particular one. I've landed a great new role at this company. I'd like to build a European sales team. And over the next 3 or 4 years, they put, I think Paul and his colleagues in the Netherlands actually did, I'm going to say, €250,000 worth of business with that particular company. And that came through good candidate engagement, which came from the attraction element overall, and giving them the right experience by looking after them. So I think that's a really important piece as well that we just need to concentrate on.
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't think we really truly value the long-term value of candidate providing really good service to candidates. candidates are, and I know you like this phrase, there's clients in disguise. But candidates will give you testimonials to help you find more candidates. Candidates will also give you referrals, which is another thing we need to talk about in a second because we're going to run out of time, as we always do when we're allowed to just do our own thing. But candidates will. I always remember being told you'll always make. This is a very commercial way of thinking about it, but let's just be this way for a second. You'll always make way more money from the candidates that you don't place than from the candidates that you do, because of all the other ways that candidates can lead you to money. Leads and references and referrals, and market intel, and future, client advocacy and stuff like that. So I, again, think that as recruiters, we get very, very blinkered into trying to find the absolute perfect candidate for the job. That comes from not flexing the spec with your client, which means you've got to have conversations with your client about the market and then start flexing that spec out. Gives you a wider pool of potential candidates from which to fish. That's going to help your attraction. Make sure you've got your value prop. Make sure you've got your client's value prop, and you've got all of this literature and your sales documentation ready to go out there into the market. But then I do think we need to be thinking like this when it comes to finding candidates, not just like that. We can't be looking for the perfect candidate. A, it doesn't exist. And B, there's probably 5 other candidates that your client would want to see. So these sort of marginal candidates, flexing the spec and then finding these marginal candidates who aren't completely right, but for whatever reason are worth putting in front of your client. If it is a famine market and your client understands that and you can educate them to that point, then your client will have to maybe just start to diversify slightly in terms of what they're looking for, if you can help to provide that. But I also think, talking in terms of the margins, this is about it's about phoning the people who aren't right for the position. A, because they give you great information. B, because you'll probably be able to work with them at some point in the future. But C, they probably know somebody who is right for this particular role. So I always say, phone people who aren't right and ask them who they know that is. So we're having to start to dig deeper, aren't we? We're having to start to look into places that we may not have needed to look before, because advertising, CRM searching, a little bit of LinkedIn trolling was working, whereas now it might not necessarily be working. So I think digging deeper, doing more touch points to more people with better messaging more often, I think is the case.
I've just got one line there, Joe, to help people. Obviously, when you go out, it's just a little preamble to your messaging when you're reaching out, be it on LinkedIn, email marketing, and sometimes it's just little things which can actually help you find more candidates. And that is, hey Joe, I'm reaching out to you to share with you an opportunity that I think may be of interest to you, or perhaps someone in your network. And it's that, or perhaps someone in your network. Adding that on it's sort of inviting them, without you having to say, I don't know who you are yet, but hey, please pass me on to all your friends and colleagues. But if you put it in that nice soft way, I've had many, back when I was a recruiter, but had many candidate referrals from people who said, oh, I was passed your details by XYZ. And I think, that's because we sent out a full brief of a candidate pack, in terms of those particular pieces of information. So I think just sometimes those little tips can sort of just give you that extra little edge when trying to find candidates, because it is about going a little bit deeper. And one of the things that you just touched on there as well, I thought I was going to check on the time, how are we doing time? Yeah, we're okay for time. Was just to say that, in a candidate famine market, the choices become lessened, but you can still both work with the candidate as well as the client. And we use a lot of behavioral assessment in our processes here at iIntro. And by the way, please do get in touch with us if you want us to tell you a bit more about how we do all these things. Oh, there you go, popped up, make a little appointment with us. But by assessing the candidates on that level, what we identify is, what motivates them or what demotivates them. And sometimes, although they may not be the perfect fit, they can be an acceptable fit if the client is prepared just to change the way that they handle that candidate. Because we're all, as individuals, we'll say, listen, I like doing it my way, and I'm going to revert to type. I'm going to do it my way. But if my way is not Joe's way, then if I'm going to go and work for Joe, if she's hiring me, which she probably never would do, then Joe can adapt her style to manage me, because she knows what motivates me and demotivates me. And that's all part of the service that you can offer to candidates, so they actually know that you've got their best interests at heart, that when you're trying to place them, you're trying to help them with their next career move. And I was speaking to a recruiter today up in Scotland, a really nice guy called Ivor, and he's been in executive recruitment for the last 30 years and recruitment generally. And he was just talking about the fact that in terms of when you manage candidates in that way, they just come back to you. He says, and I'm working with candidates I've been working with for 15, 20 years. And, and it's not about, he's not saying I was placing them every year. They'd go off on a career hike for the next 3, 4, 5 years or more, but then come back to him because they know they can trust him to get the next career move right as well. And I say, unfortunately, we've all seen the job hoppers who just aren't well looked after, and they're just being placed by recruiters who don't have their best interests at heart, and that's what we need to avoid.
Yeah, absolutely. I like your point there that you made earlier on about bringing in some kind of scientific way of assessing candidates as well, which you can then share with your clients. It's an added value service to them. This isn't about just finding people for you. It's about finding the right people. What do you do as a recruiter that helps your clients to make informed decisions, and then flip it? And then what do you do that helps your candidates to make more informed decisions as well? So I reckon we've got a couple of minutes left. Let's do top tips, James. Top tips for attracting better candidates better.
I think you need to provide your prospective candidates with more information to help them decide because if you think about the way that we buy things nowadays, and this is an acquisition in some respects, they're buying their next career move. People want to have that information. They want to consume it the way they want to consume it, not the way you want to give it. So you have to give them more information to help them decide if this is the right opportunity. And I say, if you put in some of those the caveats as well, it'll help you dig deeper into the marketplace. So better information will help you attract better candidates, but you've got to circulate that information. You've got to go broad on that one.
Yes, you do. Yes, absolutely. Better information to more people more often. That consistent sort of messaging out into the marketplace is gonna really help. I would say if you're struggling to find candidates or attract candidates, your messaging needs to be on point. So that's definitely something to look at. I would also then look at the methods. So it's always about method and messages. Look at the methods that you're using to attract candidates as well. Are they outdated? If they're not doing what they're supposed to do, then change them and do something differently. I'd also ask everybody who is listening, when was the last time that you actually proactively asked for a candidate referral? When was the last time you phoned all the people that you've ever placed, and just to see how they're getting on, but then maybe to ask them who they know, who might be interested. People who you've not placed but very nearly placed, phone them back as well. Basically, if it's living and breathing, then I would ask it for a referral. Referrals can make up to well over 50% of your placements, but you have to ask for them all the time because it doesn't work. It doesn't work with everybody all the time.
Yeah. One little thing as well, just want to add, Joe. I mean, if you really are candidate centric and candidate focused and really interested in working with specific candidates, and we sometimes call them NPCs, then making sure that you share with them what it is that you're going to do with them. Again, communicating. One of the things we work at with iIntro, we have a system called Talent Alert Pro, which is really to promote candidates. They're your special candidates. It's not your whole database, of course, but that's something you should look at. And go and have a look at talentalertpro.com. That will give you some idea of how you can actually work with candidates on a more exclusive basis and actually use that as a business development tool for your business too. So,
yeah, exactly. And then this becomes about finding the right opportunity for candidates rather than finding candidates for the jobs that you've got. So again, you're kind of spinning the way in which you work. And sometimes you'll come across a really great candidate and you won't have an opportunity for them. So you can go and create an opportunity by using Talent Alert Pro or, something similar. And the more opportunities you have in the mix with a candidate, the more they're going to be loyal and committed anyway, because it creates more advocacy. So the final thing I was going to say, just in terms of top tips for attracting candidates, is there is no silver bullet, is there, when it comes to attracting really good candidates? You've got to go back to square one. You've got to think, okay, what are all the different ways of attracting candidates, and you've got to do all of it all the time, and then harvest from it the good candidates, and make sure that you're assessing them properly. Don't just put everyone through just because it's all you've got, because yes, that won't help either.
Indeed. Well, Joe, we're 10% over our allotted time, so I think we've hit the turn to a pumpkin.
Yes. You can pay the fine this week, James. I'll pay it next time.
No problem. I did most of the talking. Listen, it's been great to share those thoughts, Joe. Thank you very much for all your input there. I hope they've been helpful and insightful to all of you watching and listening. We appreciate you joining us. Please do keep an eye out for our next shows. We will have some fabulous guests coming on board, so we look forward to seeing you again in the future. So it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me. Have a great week, everyone. See you in a
See you.
fortnight.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.